hit the button, Mr. Marc.
Alrighty. I have hit the button. The button has been hit. Hello, everybody in Facebook and internet worlds. It is us, the Aconite Books gang. We are here today to talk to you about what's quite special. I'm not sure if you're aware, but it is the first Thursday of the month, which in the UK means it's book release day, which is very exciting because that means that, I know, look at those faces. Faces and hands moving asynchronously. We have got all the moves, which means that these two splendid titles are released in the UK in paperback form. And we're going to talk about them in a minute. And then see if we've got time to talk about other things too. Who knows? Because unfortunately, I have with me Marc, our publisher, who once he starts talking probably won't stop, and Lottie, Lottie Wells, our editor, who is responsible for these books as well, and will attempt to get a word in edgeways somewhere down the line. That's pretty cool, right? I know, we could have scripted it, then at least we'd all get to speak equally, but since I'm technically in charge, I guess I'm going to dominate this time. That's exciting. So we have two great books out. What would you guys like to talk about first? Do you want to talk about Wrath and Akai? Or do they talk about Tales of the Crucible? They're both pretty hot. Oh, let's go with Wrath and Akai. Which I'm holding the wrong one. This is the problem with holding books. Oh, man.
Can we start again?
No, well, I can't cope with this mirrored screen thing. That's still driving me crazy. Alrighty, let's get ourselves a lovely picture of Wrath and Akai up. And there's some way to organize our faces, I'm sure.
So, Lottie, why did we start with an Arkham horror novel amongst the many wonderful worlds from the games of Asmodee, including Fantasy Flight, Z-Man, and way beyond, to why did we start with Arkham?
Because it's awesome. Is that like an acceptable answer here? Arkham is a super rich, interesting world for us to explore. It was one that we had so many great stories and ideas for. And when we were chatting to Josh originally about this book, and he pitched this book to us, we were like, yes, we have to have this book. Please go and write it. It's one of those worlds that's got some really interesting historical aspects, but it's also got heroism and monsters and gribbly things coming out of space and the ground, and you're like somewhere in your house. It's got people stepping up. It's got people being exposed to the weird and gribbly horrible things that exist beyond the curtain in the universe. It's just one of those really cool and interesting worlds, and it's one of my favorites. I absolutely love it. So this was just a great book to start with. It's a great way to introduce Arkham Horror to you as a reader if you've never played the game. If you don't really know what Arkham is, this is a great one for you to pick up. You absolutely need to know nothing for you to read this book. You are kind of like Alessandra, who's the protagonist, because she is going to Arkham for the first time, so you can both learn about it together.
Totally agreed, and obviously based in the world of the hugely popular Arkham Horror board game and card game, and many more spin-offs besides. So there's a lot of heritage. A lot of the game world already exists now. We've said before, if anyone's been lucky or unlucky enough to catch up with some of our broadcasts to date, as we've been preparing Aconite to bring to you all, while these are set in the worlds of the games, these are not straight novelizations of games. Certainly not here in terms of gameplay. But also, we basically treat the world of Arkham and beyond as a real place, and we bring stories from it the way that gameplay brings stories and game-based adventure based on it. But what are the particular strictures we've come across for Arkham? What are the rules of Arkham, as it were? Not the game, but yeah, what did we have to bear in mind?
Things that we have to bear in mind. Obviously, that the mythos is real. It's a real thing. It's a tangible thing. But also, it's about real people stepping up and being heroes. It's about them being confronted with the worst things in the world or in the universe, and the possibility that these terrible, truly awful things could happen, and then being like, okay, that's terrifying. What am I going to do about it? It's about real people realizing that these horrible things could happen and then actually deciding to do something about it in a good way.
There's that great line they use when, alas, there's a terrible disaster or a plane crash or a fire or whatever. Look for the people running towards the problem. Yeah. And actually, it always strikes me that the Arkham folks, even though a lot of them are everyday Joes and Josephines, that they are the people who go, I've had it with the mothering tentacle things on my mothering ship or town centre. Give me that Tommy gun. I'm going to sort this out.
Yeah. And for some of them, it's for some of our protagonists who are new characters, we have cameos of characters that you may be familiar with from the board games and the investigators. Some of your favorite characters will pop up, but a lot of the protagonists are new. So Alessandra Zorzi in Wrath of Mackay is a new character, and for her, it's about her discovery. She has to discover that this is real, and it's about her reaction to it. And a little bit of it at first is her going, no, this is obviously not real. And obviously, because when you're faced with these kind of weird gribbly monsters or potential for these things to, be different and be real, but it's about what you do after that. And I think she's an absolutely fabulous heroine. She's so real and interesting, and she's just really kick-ass as well. And I love her. Do
you think we'll see more from her?
I would love to see more from Alessandra. I really would. I think she's really cool.
And
some of the other characters as well that we get in this, Pepper, and even Whitlock, running around with his trying to be the hero. So I think there's some really great characters in this, and I love all of the characters in our books, but I really have a soft spot for some of these guys.
I know from the development period that we took a deliberate decision not to write books, at least in the first batch, that were using particularly well-established investigators, people already known to players of old from earlier novels, color text fiction, and of course from gameplay and source books and so on. How do you think that's played out?
I think it's worked really well, because it's really nice to get to explore some new characters, people who might not be familiar with the mythos, and whose stories we're not already familiar with, because obviously having the investigators is amazing and we absolutely love them, but we do know a lot about how they came to the mythos already, and some of their stories, so it's really nice to get to tell new stories in Arkham, expose more people to the mythos, and get to sort of do some little twists, but we also really get some cool cameos from the already sort of present investigators. Tommy Muldoon is one of the ones you'll find here in Wrath of Mackay, and as well as some more slightly nefarious people as well, who you may be familiar with. And that's the same for all of our Arkham horror books. You'll find like a lot of the existing characters kind of popping up in the background, maybe to lend a helping hand, maybe to drop in some clues, or to make, a sort of sly comment, or, be a little bit of a sort of magical helper, just to say, oh, have you considered this? They're guiding these characters on their quests.
Who is this Azathoth? Oh, you'll see, he said gnomically, that sort of thing.
Stuff like that, a little bit like that. So it's really cool, and it's nice to get to see some of these characters interacting in different ways as well.
And we have seen, and we did see a lovely book reviewer, as well as saying very kind things about how, I guess, surprisingly brilliant, emotionally moving, and gripping the novel was. Also took the time to stat out the Countess Alessandra from this particular book, with a view to potentially even using her in her games, and maybe we'll see more of that. Obviously, you mentioned books plural there in the Arkham Horror strand from Aconite. What's the next one, and when's it due?
So the next one is The Last Ritual, which will be out in the US and in ebook in November, and then in the UK in December.
Brilliant.
And it's very, very cool, slightly different twist, and it's got some sort of surrealist artists, little hints of cult goings on, a very mysterious and slightly nefarious visitor to Arkham. Does he have good intentions? Does he have bad? And some more interesting things going on. And we got some really cool, like, surrealist art vibes and strange goings on and things happening, coming to life. And it's really fun and interesting. And again, it's more characters, some of whom have been away from Arkham for a while, and then they're coming back for the first time in a couple of years. So it's a really interesting sort of way for them to come back and view Arkham with new eyes. So I'm really excited about that one. It's again, I absolutely love the Arkham setting. And this one, the Last Ritual's got some amazing characters. So I'm super excited for everybody to read that one.
I don't know. There
are... I like the mix of that kind of pulp adventure and horror. I think the books are leaning into those two different things in slightly different ways, which is kind of cool. It should appeal to many people who not everyone's up for in total cosmic dread right now. Sometimes you just want an adventure with a little bit of cosmic dread. I feel like we got enough existential terror at the moment without having too much of it. But yeah,
obviously, in complete contrast to eternal cosmic horror, is it eternal cosmic wonder, I suppose, of the Crucible?
Bam! That's the wrong one. My God, too many buttons.
So, Tales from the Crucible. Now, this is not a novel. This is a short story collection. What the hell? Why is that? Why did we do stories?
Why did we do? Oh, there was a question. Why did we do short stories?
Stories.
Because it's a really cool way to explore the Crucible. It's such an interesting and vast world. It's basically, if you don't know what the Crucible is, it's from the amazing card game Keyforge, designed by Richard Garfield. And the Crucible is basically an enormous planet in the center of the universe, made up of bits of other planets that have basically been scooped up throughout time and space by these very, very mysterious architects, and kind of randomly smashed together like a odd jigsaw puzzle to create hundreds of thousands of little biomes of different planets and cultures and species all across this planet. It's this wonderful, weird hodgepodge of amazing sci-fi tropes and awesomeness. And obviously, this planet has existed for quite a long time. So, lots of creatures and species have been there for a while. They've built cities. They've started exploring. And it also has these amazing vault battles taking place between these super powerful beings called Archons, who are looking for these vaults that have been hidden by the mysterious architects. And they have these huge, amazing battles to forge keys and also to get into the vaults. So that's also something that's going on. That's the real focus of the Keyforge card game. We do have some of that in the anthology as well. It was a really cool thing to get to explore some of these vault battles from the perspective of some of the creatures that take part in them. And also from some of the people who kind of reenact them, because you can't have these cool things taking place without people also wanting to sort of reenact them, sort of LARP or historical reenactment style. But this anthology is just a great way to kind of explore some of the different people who live on the Crucible and a small fraction of the thousands of different stories that exist there. So it's kind of loads of different slices of life.
And I guess a great way of introducing us to a lot of writing talent very rapidly.
Yes,
7 different authors showing really quite different aspects of the wider world of Keyforge, which we've only seen a glimpse of in the card game, perhaps a bit more in the brand new Genesis RPG supplement, which is the whole world book for it. And no doubt to be explored further as the game designers, particularly Richard Garfield, the wondrous creator, go further and further into different aspects of the Crucible. And I know there's a novel coming as well. Which we haven't announced, but I know it's in development, and I'm very happy to say yes, that there's one coming without going into any more details whatsoever.
We're just going to say there is one and then leave it at that.
Alrighty, well that sounds good. Now both of these are obviously out now. I should say, if you are a player of Keyforge, and particularly on the roleplay side, there is also an adventure that the wondrous Angeli from our marketing manager worked up, which was intended for the conventions this summer, which of course didn't happen because of the somewhat nasty old lurgy that's out there. But we did manage to play it online at UK Games Expo Online, and got a lot of the authors involved, playing their own characters in a role-play version set just before all of their stories seem to break out in the anthology, which I haven't seen too much of that happen before. So that was a different way of doing things, and that's going to be up, if not up already, for free download in a whole bunch of RPG repositories as a free PDF wherever you get these things. Our website, aconitebooks.com, always a good place to find these. But of course, these 2 books hitting the shelves in the UK for this weekend. They're officially on sale today. Ebooks have been out for a little while, and that does mean that next month's ebooks are already out in the UK as well. Just so you know, everybody, we print them in America and have to ship them over, so they take just a couple of weeks to get to you. But if you're super keen, get the ebook and then pick up the paperback later. It's well worth doing. But should we tell people a little bit about what's coming up in a few weeks' time? Or you can snap up on ebook right now as well, since we've got you, Lottie, and dragged you away from your red pen for a little while.
Indeed.
I bet Nick is poised. He's going to flash up a random cover, and you must talk without hesitation, repetition, and deviation for as long as you like about it.
Curse of Honor.
Ooh, Legend of the Five Rings, Rokugan, the land of mystery and magic.
Yes. So this is the perfect October read or like winter read, because it's got some sort of really cool spooky vibes as well. It's about family, it's about glory, it's about redemption. It's also about arrogance and sort of what people will do, or what lengths some people will do for glory, and how that really doesn't always work out. So we have Haru, who is sort of the son of the daimyo of part of the Crab Clan, and in Rokugan, the Crab Clan kind of defend the wall against the Shadowlands, which is a realm kind of full of monsters and demons, and they stop that all from spilling out into the rest of Rokugan. And Haru was a little bit of a disappointment to his family and a disappointment to himself. So when when he sees the opportunity, when he finds a hidden city, when he sees this as an opportunity to bring glory to himself, and also to kind of redeem himself in the eyes of his family and his mother, and also to prove that he is a very capable warrior, at least in his own eyes. And whether this is, and the whole story is kind of a little bit about what happens once he decides to do that. And what kind of happens after that. You find a hidden city. It's kind of got as actually illustrated by a lovely cover, it's got a sort of weird, mysterious green glow to it. I mean, my natural reaction would probably be to run away, but Haru's is like, let's go and investigate this. And it's all about kind of the kind of things that happen afterwards. It's got some amazing battles. It's got some really spooky horror vibes as Haru goes back to his own castle and accidentally brings something with him. It's got some mystery. David has built this amazing kind of whodunit aspect into this novel as well. Absolutely, I will recommend all of our books because I love all of them. But this one, when I first read it, I sat reading it, I was like, oh my gosh, and it's got so many wonderful twists, even though I already knew what was happening. So it still surprised me. So, and it's our first book set in the Legend of the Five Rings setting. It's sort of a take on a lot of Japanese mythology, but also Chinese and sort of Korean mythology as well. It's got a lot of warring clans in it, but also magic, intrigue, politics. It's this really complex and interesting place. Again, with like Curse of Honor, you don't actually have to have played the game before. It's a really nice introductory step into the world of Rokugan, but there is an amazing RPG and card game that you can go and pick up if you do really enjoy this as well. And with some beautiful rule books.
Totally. It's why of all the beautiful art that the wonderful folks at Fantasy Flight who publish the games currently do, it's Legend of the Five Rings stands out for the sheer transcendent beauty of a lot of the old, which brings us our own packaging challenges to make sure we match it. But I think our artist Nathan Elmer, who has not really done book covers before, has really stepped up. We poached him from the world of computer gaming. As you've said a few times, Lottie, that these are books designed, yes, to scratch as many itches as long-term fans, and for Legend of the Five Rings going back almost 25 years, to get real kicks from and see Easter eggs, connections, filling in gaps in stories. But we've deliberately designed these to be able to be not just understood, but absolutely dove deep into by more general readers coming to the line. And I'm guessing that's going to continue in our Descent novel as well next month.
Yes. So obviously this one is Descent: Journeys in the Dark. This is the Doom of Fallow Half. It's the first novel set in the Descent world. Again, if you have played any of the Descent games, Journeys in the Dark, or for example, any of the Runebound games,
and rush out and do that immediately, of course.
You should do that immediately. Or, but this is a really great introduction to that. It's a wonderful kind of fantasy world. We kind of describe it as like the first best game of D&D that you ever played. And Robbie McNiven has done an absolutely wonderful job.
The fantasy games are available, of course.
Indeed, but also read this book and buy this game. And this one is about a group of aging adventurers who are kind of get involved in one last mission. They've been retired for a while. Logan Lashley, the rogue, especially, has been enjoying his retirement, and he finds himself kind of pulled out of it when his old friend and adventurer, Durik, who's a very level-headed and sensible orc, sends him a message and asks him for help. They have been employed by Baroness Adeline to find her missing daughter, Catherine, who disappeared in the small town of Forthrin in the north of Terranoth. And so they go on a quest. On their last quest, so the last quest that they've done in a while, to go and see if they can find out what happened to her. It's got, again, really nice spooky vibes, some nice bit of haunted forests, murky towns, a little bit of are people who they say they are, but it's also this amazing adventure full of lots of action, emotion as well. It's got such a, it's got some super hard-hitting parts as well, which I was really, it's nice to see people mentioning in the reviews. And we've had some lovely reviews of this one. And it's a great introduction to this world. And it's really fun to see some adventurers going off who actually know what they're doing. They've done this before. It's not a new band of heroes, but rather sort of the other end of the scale, and getting to see how they feel about doing all of this. In Logan's case, he's not particularly impressed.
But hopefully readers will be, Lottie.
I hope readers will be. This book is such a fun adventure. And if you love fantasy novels, if you love seeing people go out on quests and having those kind of adventures, but also with a lot of emotional depth as well.
Yeah, it's important to us that people get their teeth into our books and that characters come alive for folks, regardless of these may be based on games, but they have to be, and they are rich, involving works of fiction, as good as anybody's. Should say to anyone watching, if you have questions, you're very welcome to lob them in now. We'll leave a couple of moments at the end to answer those. And of course, you're very welcome to post questions later on the Facebook page, or catch us up on Twitter, or indeed email us via the website, and we'll do our very best to give you the info we know. Should also mention that there are more Descent novels and more Legend of the Five Ring novels on our publishing schedule, coming towards the end of the year in one case and into early next year in the other. But we also don't just do games based on wonderful fantasy games, books based on fantasy games, do we? I realize that we don't just do games. Actually, that's we do books, and of course we have a couple of wondrous titles just hitting the ebook store, with paperbacks due in a couple of weeks, from the worlds of Marvel.
Indeed. This is the first in our Legends of Asgard strand, which kind of focuses on some of the heroic stories from the history of Asgard, telling stories of some of those wonderful heroes and heroines. And this one is the first of our novels from that range, and it features a very, very young Heimdall, who is pre his powers and pre being the guardian of the Rainbow Bridge. Seeing him go off on a quest with his sister Sif to retrieve the head of Mimir, which has been stolen from Odin's chambers, in the middle, very conveniently, in the middle of a war with the frost giants from Jotunheim. And Heimdall setting out on a quest to retrieve it, and to hopefully break the deadlock of the war as well.
Wondrous. And obviously this is all set around Asgard. I'm guessing we're going to see a whole bunch of heroes from across.
We will definitely, yes. We have lots of wonderful plans for this line. We have another book coming out, which will be The Sword of Surta, which focuses on another one of the heroes, and then we have more planned for 21 and even into 2022 as well.
Good stuff. And it's very clear here that we're not just telling stories of Thor and Loki doing all the stuff you're familiar with, although they certainly turn up in guest star roles from time to time. But this is about, again, treating Asgard and the Ten Realms as a real place where everyone has stories and adventures, oft best related over a big flagon of mead, following a head-banging together competition or whatever it happens to be, in the great heroic tradition of both sword and sorcery and Viking myth, and indeed the worlds of Asgard as relayed in the comics since they were first appeared. Obviously, this is very much in the sword and sorcery realm. I think the heroines give a very different impression. This is very modern.
Very modern, slightly opposite end of the spectrum in terms of historical scale. These are all very modern. Domino Strays is an action thriller with, super hit heroines, and it's told in a really kind of bouncing first-person perspective, which I love. And it's Domino talking. She's going to tell you the story, and she's going to tell you it her way, as she infiltrates a conman's cult to rescue some twins. And also we get to find out a little bit about her past and a mission that she also went on 6 years ago to the Florida Everglades, and they're all kind of woven together as Domino pieces together the portions of her past and some of her memories and kind of connects them to her actions now. And it's got really strong themes about identity and childhood and things like that as well. Absolutely cracking action-packed thriller from Tristan. I absolutely loved this book as well.
And I absolutely loved this book. I think the one thing that Tristan did more than anything is they managed to capture the voice of a real life person.
Yeah.
And while we've seen Domino through the amazing recent run from Gail Simone and her wondrous artists, and obviously in the recent Deadpool 2 movie, but she comes alive in this in a way that I hadn't quite expected. She's with a real depth and heartbreak, and a very impressive heroine when the chips are down as well.
Definitely.
This book's made sense of Domino for me, and I'd love to see if we can persuade Tristan to do more down the line.
Definitely.
And obviously, this the heroine strand is one strand. The Legends of Asgard is a second strand, and they were both upcoming books. You want to talk us through the other two series that we're working up?
Yeah, of course. So we'll be having Professor Xavier's Institute, which starts with Liberty and Justice, which comes out in November, or Liberty and Justice for All, and it's really following some of the younger X-Men, the younger mutants, as they kind of come into their powers. They kind of work out who they are, how they work with other people. And it's some of their adventures. And in Liberty and Justice for All, Triage and Tempest, so Ava and Christopher go off on their first sort of solo training mission. And it doesn't quite go exactly how they planned, especially not when we get some Sentinels and some other mutants involved. It's a really, really great story about two young people having to just figure out, how they use their powers, what they're actually doing, and taking that next step towards being fully fledged X-Men. And then the other strand that we have is Marvel Untold, which features a lot of our kind of magical characters, some really interesting and well-known villains as well from the Marvel Universe. We're actually kicking off that series with a Doctor Doom novel, which is The Harrowing of Doom, which is coming out in December. And that's again written by David Annandale, who's written Curse of Honor, and it's a really fascinating and great look at Doctor Doom, how he rules his country of Latveria, and also how he's kind of haunted by some of his past decisions and what he kind of wants to try and do about that, specifically the loss of his mother. So it's a really cool and interesting novel that really gets you a deeper look at an interesting villain in the Marvel Universe.
And just the first of many in that series.
Indeed.
So Liberty and Justice for All is out in November in the USA, and an ebook available everywhere, including the UK, at the same time, and then physical copies in December, and Doom is the month after, so December into January. The perfect just before or just after Christmas present for all Doctor Doom lovers, I'd say. And we're going to pop up in regular intervals to talk through more about what we're doing. And I don't know if Nick's still around, but you can say goodbye on behalf of us, because
yeah, I'm still here just about. I thought I'd let you guys talk. You seem to be doing such a good job of that.
3 seconds to go. You want to give us a big comment on that?
Buy some amazing books. It's all we need you to do. They're wonderful, and you'll have a great time with them all. Thanks for joining us, guys, and we'll talk to you all pretty soon.
Ta-ra.